माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुदेशिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं मद्देशिकं चापि नमामि विद्यै। ओम नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः सर्वोपप्लवरहित प्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ओम प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। Pranams everyone. Today I hope to cover a summary of chapter 8, 9 and 10, a brief summary. And the way I would want to cover it is through some kind of an FAQ, questions followed by answers. Some of the key questions I have already shared with you in the sheet that I have passed around. But the whole thing, the chapter 8 and 9 and 10, the key shlokas and the key concepts, we will go through some kind of FAQ, a question and answer sessions. First, before we go there, the 7th to the 12th chapter is called as the Madhyama Shatkam, is the middle section of Bhagavad Gita. And in this Madhyama Shatkam, the key sadhana that is highlighted is Upasana. Upasana being meditation. So what is Upasana? How do we define Upasana? Upasana is defined as Saguna Brahma Manasa Vyapara. Saguna Brahma Manasa Vyapara means it is actually a mental activity. It is primarily a mental activity and it is on Saguna Brahma, which is Ishvara. So if we take, then is puja, japa, are they considered upasana? Then the question is no. If we do any kind of japa or any parayanam or any kind of puja, these are all physical activities and they cannot be considered as upasana. Upasana is done by a sadhana, is a sadhana in which the mind is the primary instrument. And that too, it has to be associated with Ishvara. If we do any kind of meditation in which Ishvara is not involved, then we don't call it as upasana. So then the next question comes, what is Ishvara here? Ishvara here refers to the Saguna Brahma Ishvara, which means the Ishvara with attributes, with name, form and all those things. And how many types of upasana are there? There are two types of upasana. One is Sakama Upasana. Sakama Upasana, what is Sakama Upasana? Sakama Upasana is one that is done with material benefits. So any kind of meditation that we do where we ask for material benefits. So material benefits can be belonging to this world or to the other world. So Ihaloka Palam or Paraloka Palam. So even if we seek from Ishvara that I want to go to the next higher loka, then it also comes under material benefit only. Or within this world, if I seek miraculous powers, even that comes under material benefits only. So Sakama Upasana is one type of Upasana where we seek material benefits. Then there is another form of Upasana called Nishkama Upasana. Now Nishkama Upasana, what is Nishkama Upasana? It is the same meditation, it is the same Saguna Brahma, Manasa Vyapara. So same Ishvara with attributes we meditate upon, but without asking for any material benefit. So in that case, then what is that Nishkama Upasana meant for? The Nishkama Upasana is primarily meant for spiritual growth, for the inner growth of a person. So this is done by a sadhaka who values material accomplishments inferior to spiritual accomplishments. And what happens after we practice Nishkama Upasana over a period of time? If we practice Nishkama Upasana over a period of time, we will the person will get the spiritual qualification to enter Jnana Yoga. This person will attain Sādanā Chatushtaya Sampatti. So this person will become eligible for receiving the knowledge of self or Ishvara. We may correct. So, or he becomes eligible for Jnana Yoga. Then the question is, what is Jnana Yoga? Jnana Yoga involves Vedanta, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. It is about listening to Vedanta, and Mananam is reflection, Nididhyasana is assimilation. What is the primary or what is the result of Jnana Yoga? Why do we get into Jnana Yoga? The result is liberation. One becomes Jnana Nishta. And that person attains Jivan Mukti. What is Jivan Mukti? Jivan Mukti is basically liberation when alive, when being alive in this life itself. So this is one route of liberation. We all look to get liberated, and one route of liberation is this Jivan Mukti route, which is also called as Sadhyo Mukti route. Now, where does Bhagavan deal with Nishkama Upasana in Bhagavad Gita? If you look at it, Nishkama Upasana is dealt with Bhagavad Gita in 7th chapter, in the 9th chapter, 10th chapter, 11th chapter, 12th chapter. The entire middle section except for 8th chapter. And in all these places, Bhagavan talks about Nishkama Upasana, which is a means to Jivan Mukti. Whereas what is special about chapter 8 is, chapter 8 alone is the odd man out, so to speak. Because this is one peculiar chapter where Bhagavan deals with Nishkama Upasana of another type. What is peculiar about this is, here this person practices Ishvara Upasana. So he is doing Upasana, he is doing Sakama, he is doing Nishkama Upasana, but with Saguna Brahman as Ishvara with form, as the deity. And he does not want any material benefits also. But the difference is, he continues to do Nishkama Upasana throughout his life. He does not come to Jnana Yoga at all. So he does not come to Vedanta, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana at all. So what happens to him at the time of death? Bhagavan says a person continues to do Nishkama Upasana throughout his life. His mind is full of Ishvara Chintana because he has been doing it throughout his life. And what happens at the time of death is what is dealt in detail in chapter 8. What happens to this particular person at the time of death or after death? Now the question is, does he know about Nirguna Brahman? No, he does not know Nirguna Ishvara. He does not know about Brahman, as in he does not know Aham Brahmasmi. So technically speaking, this Upasaka is still an Ajñāni. He does not have the knowledge of self. So the question is then, if knowledge is the solution to get liberated, will he get liberated? No, he does not get liberated. At least not in this life, here and now. So what will happen is, at the time of death, he will take a special, after his death, he will take a special path called as Shukla Gati, and then he will go to a special loka called Brahma Loka, and in that Brahma Loka, he will attain knowledge with Brahmaji being the teacher, and then thus get liberated. And this particular route is called as Krama Mukti. That one is Jivan Mukti, this one is Krama Mukti. That one is also called Sadhyo Mukti, this one is called Krama Mukti. Now, this route is exception. Normally, Bhagavan prescribes us for the Jivan Mukti route, where after Upasana, you come to Jnana Yoga, understand Aham Brahmasmi, and then get liberated. So for the sake of information, he wants us to give the knowledge of Krama Mukti. Therefore, this is in between an exceptional chapter. And in this chapter, Bhagavan talks about another important aspect, which is we said in this case of this Krama Mukti, this particular Upasaka thinks about Ishvara at the time of death, and therefore he goes through a Shukla Gati and attains Brahmaloka. Bhagavan talks about significance of the thoughts at the time of death. Bhagavan says, whatever be the predominant thought at that time of your death, that will determine the place of your rebirth and also the type of your rebirth. So whatever you think at the time of death will determine your next birth. This Bhagavan says in this chapter. And that is given in Shloka 6. And what happens if this person thinks about Ishvara at the time of death? Then at the time of death, if he thinks about Ishvara, his next life will be conducive for the pursuit of Ishvara. And therefore, he will naturally be successful in attaining moksha in the next life. So now the question comes, can I not in my mind think about all the things, whatever we want to desire, and just at the moment of death, can we not quickly think about Ishvara? The answer is, whatever we think at the time of death is determined by what we think throughout our life. And why is it not easy to think about Ishvara at the time of death? Two reasons. First, we do not know when the life will leave the body. It can happen anytime suddenly. So we don't know when the time is going to be. So we cannot be prepared with the Ishvara thought. Number one. Number two, even when we know, suppose if we are in deathbed, we know that we have a few days to go. Even then, to bring in a fresh thought is very difficult at that time. So, question is then what kind of thoughts rise up then? What kind of thoughts? Whatever we had been thinking throughout our life, only those thoughts will come up. And those thoughts will come automatically, without any effort, those things will rise on within us. And it will rise up when we are in deathbed, or even when we are weak. When we are physically or mentally weak, these thoughts rise up. Or even when we are idle, sitting quiet, when we actually sit quietly, this thought comes up. These are the thoughts that will come up even during deathbed. Next question is then, how do I know what is in my mind, so that I know whether this thought will come up during the time of death? One method of finding out is swapna, our dreams. The dreams give a clue of what is in our mind. But the dreams are hazy, so we will not be able to make out. That is why there is a story of one great devotee called Appaya Dikshidhar, who had actually wanted to know what is in his mind, and therefore he took a particular type of milk which will make him go, off balance, delirium. And it is the story goes that he actually drinks and then he asks his disciples to take note of what he is saying, to see whether what kind of thoughts come up in his mind. And from there came the stuti called Unmata Stotram. He basically chanted hymns after hymns on Shiva. And he became Unmata. Unmata means delirious. Delirious means extremely excited and happy. So he became so happy. So this is, what does this imply? So when we are without any strength, when we are physically weak, mentally vulnerable, only the things in our subconscious will come out. So it is important to have Ishvara Smaranam at all times. The question is it very difficult? No, it seems difficult, but it can be achieved through practice. So this is the main sort of topic that Bhagavan wants to cover in this chapter. Other than that, there are also things like, what is the nature of liberation? What do we mean by moksha? And what is the nature of samsara? That is given in Shloka 15 to 19, where Bhagavan compares samsara and moksha. And he says, rebirth is samsara, Getting out of that cycle is moksha. And Bhagavan describes the body. He describes the body to be dukkhalayam and ashashvatam. He says the body is abode for miseries. All the miseries are there. And this body is ashashvatam. It is fleeting, transient, short-lived. And then there was another question that Bhagavan answers is, okay, if I continue to be in this, doesn't matter, I don't do anything. During the stage of Pralaya, when the whole world goes into the dissolution stage, will I also get moksha at that point of time? Will I also dissolve during that time? Bhagavan says, no. A Jiva is subject to rebirth even after Pralaya. Even after Brahma attains 100 years of his time. And when new Brahma comes back, the Jiva will come back, you will come back. So then we want to get liberated. And what is the benefit of liberation? Bhagavan says, Yam prapya na nivartanti. Once you attain this moksha, you will not come back to samsara. You will not get rebirth. So even after Pralaya, when all other Jivas come back, the Jiva that had attained moksha will not come back. So this is, in short, the summary of chapter 8. Now we'll go to chapter 9. Chapter 9 is called Rāja Vidyā, Rāja Guhya. Rāja Vidyā means greatest knowledge. Rāja Guhya means greatest secret. Now, why is this knowledge called Rāja Vidyā? Why is this called as greatest knowledge? This knowledge is called greatest knowledge because this knowledge alone liberates a Jiva. No other knowledge will liberate us. So therefore it is called as Rāja Vidyā. Now why is this called Rāja Guhyam? Which means, Guhyam means secret. This knowledge remains as a secret to many people. Because many would not have prepared the mind and therefore it is not available to them. But why is this still secret when there are so many teachers around? Because I can always listen to some teacher and then learn this knowledge. Why is it still called secret? See, what happens is as science developed, right, many such secrets were discovered. Many secrets were discovered. Scientists have dedicated their entire life to unreveal secrets. So one of the secrets in the Western world is that the earth is actually a sphere and not a flat surface. The earth being a sphere was a secret for many centuries in the Western world. Of course, in our culture we knew that it was always a golakam. But then once they've understood, they've identified that the world is not flat but it is a sphere. Others, for us, we don't need to put that kind of an effort. We can understand that easily. Now if we apply the same format to Vedantic knowledge, a person has discovered Brahman and now he is able to explain Brahma Swarupam to us. Can we actually learn the Brahma Swarupam from him? Can we understand this Brahma Swarupam and get liberated? Just as we do it from reading our science books? The answer is no. The difference between the worldly secrets and the Brahman knowledge, that secret is, for this Brahman secret, whatever is the effort that one had put in discovering Brahman, the same effort has to be put by any person who wants to discover it. So that is why it's called as Rāja Guhya. A realized guru, even if he explains this is Brahman, it will remain a secret to the Shishya who has not put the effort. So that is why it is called as Rāja Guhya. And Bhagavan calls this Jñānam as Uttama Jñānam, Pavitra Jñānam also. Then the next question that Bhagavan tries to address is, why is Śraddhaḥ an important Sādanā for getting self-knowledge and what is its benefit? People without Śraddhaḥ will not get this knowledge. Ashraddhadhana Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa. Bhagavan says in 9.3. Why? First of all, we'll have to understand what does Shastras teach. The Shastras teach us Sarvam Vishnumayam Jagat or Sarvam Shivamayam Jagat. Everything is Ishvara. And Shastra says Tattvam Masi. You are that Brahman. Shastras show us that we are Brahma Swarupa. But what does our experience tell us? Our experience makes us feel that we are a samsari. Our experience tells us that we are limited to this body and mind. And everything that we experience in life is in direct contrast to what the Shastra says in its Upadesha. It's contradicting. So what can make me believe in Shastra, continue listening to Shastras, until the teaching of the Shastra becomes my knowledge? It is only Śraddhaḥ. And what happens if you reject the teaching? If you reject the teaching, the loser is not the teacher, the loser is not the rishis, the loser is not the guru, the loser is not the Shastras, the loser is us. They are not going to gain anything. So Bhagavan emphasizes Śraddhaḥ as a Sādanā, as an important qualification again and again. And what is the benefit of this knowledge? In chapter 9, Bhagavan says, Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. He says, one gets relief from samsara that is mixed with death and sorrow. Samsara is defined as, samsara has got many definitions. One way of defining is samsara, we can say, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsaryam is also samsara. Samsara is rebirth, is also samsara. Samsara is also sorrow. Any sorrow that we face is samsara. So this is the importance of Śraddhaḥ. And Bhagavan describes this universe, this Jagat, with regards to, or he describes this Brahman with regards to the universe. And he describes this as Maya Tatam Idam Sarvam Jagat Avyakta Murtina. He says, all living beings dwell in me, but I do not dwell in them. All living beings dwell in me, but I do not dwell in them. Then in the next sloka he says, they do not abide in me. So it seems contradictory. So through these seemingly contradictory statements, Bhagavan shows the relationship between the universe and Brahman, the Jagat and the Nirguna Brahman. And the relationship that Bhagavan says is Mithya Satya relation. The relationship that we use in Advaita is the snake and rope. So Mithya Jagat Adhishtanam is Brahman. In fact, if we remember Lalita Sahasranama, one of the namas there is Mithya Jagat Adhishtana Muktida Mukti Rupini. It is 700 plus, it comes around 700 plus, where we identify Ishvara as Jagat Adhishtana. Then in shlokas within this, he gives in 11 and 12, he gives the reason for samsara and also describes a samsari. Samsara, as I said, is many definitions are there. In this case, Bhagavan says, Avajananti mam mudaha. Mudaha, deluded persons. And they are ignorant. And why they are ignorant? Ignorant about what? Ignorant about knowing me. He says, Bhagavan says, you do not know me. And therefore you are a samsari. And therefore, Bhagavan establishes the reason for samsara is ignorance. If the world is Brahman, then the question we will ask is, where does this samsara come from? The samsara comes out of ignorance. And how is the samsari described? Bhagavan describes the ignorant samsaris as Mogasha, Moga Karmana, Moga Jñāna. Person with vain hopes, vain pursuits, vain desires, vain knowledge. Whatever their actions, their desires, their knowledge, all are useless. What Bhagavan wants to say here is all non-sattvic pursuits, all rajasic and tamasic pursuits are hopeless. That is what he wants to make clear, and thus he describes samsari. Now there are people who are having this desire still in their mind and they still pray to Ishvara. So what happens to those devotees who pray for fulfilling their desires? Bhagavan says they will get their rewards. They will get their devotion. So they will go to heaven. If they do a lot of good karma, they will go to heaven and they will enjoy their pleasures, or within this world they will attain a lot of materialistic gains. So the question is, okay, why don't I go and stay in heaven permanently? I will go get there and stay there permanently. Bhagavan says, Te tam bhuttva swargalokam vishalam kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. He says, you will have to come back. In our Vedic religion, there is no eternal hell, eternal heaven concept. You have to go back and come back to this loka. So Jiva goes to that loka and comes back. Now those are for Sakama Bhaktas. What if we do as a Nishkama Bhakta? What is the assurance that Bhagavan gives us to us if I am, Nishkama? And Bhagavan in Sloka 22 in chapter 9 gives an important sloka. He gives an assurance to Nishkama Bhaktas saying, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Yejana Paryupasate. This is basically a doubt that can come to in the mind of a sadhaka. He says, I give my time, I give my knowledge, I give my efforts, I give my resources, all to Ishvara. Then, who will give me the required things in life to take care of my livelihood? And even if it is given, who will ensure that these are all properly maintained? Bhagavan says, Aham Vahami. It is my responsibility. So Bhagavan says, I will take care of your yoga and kshema. Yoga and kshema here refers to all the materialistic things that might be required for one's livelihood. But there is also another meaning for this yoga and kshema that we can have. The another meaning for yoga and kshema in this case can be Jnāna and Jnāna Nishtha. Bhagavan says, Śraddha alone is important. I will give you Jnāna and I will make sure that the Jnāna stays with you. Jnāna Nishtha, as Jnāna Nishtha. So not only he will give necessary things for my livelihood, he will also give me Chitta Shuddhi, he will also give me the Guru, he will also give me the ability to remember what we study, and he will also give me the knowledge. And later on in Sloka 26 and 27, Bhagavan talks about Nishkama Bhakti Prakara, as in the way to worship. I'm not going to cover that, but I will just pick on the benefit of Nishkama Bhakti. Nishkama Bhakti, Bhagavan clearly mentions in Sloka 28, again an important sloka, where Bhagavan promises both Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. And the question then is, who can do this Nishkama Bhakti? Who is qualified for this moksha? Bhagavan says, moksha does not have any condition or age or gender or ashrama or varna. It is open to all. All are qualified. That is given in Sloka 32 and 33. Then finally Bhagavan gives us an advice, the last, how to be a devotee. Manmana bhava, madbhakta bhava, madhyaji bhava, mam namaskuru. So, first one is madbhakta. Madbhakta means be devoted to me. Be devoted to me means be a nishkama bhakta. Then matparayanaha. Matparayanaha means regard me as the supreme goal. Have Ishvara as the goal. Then manmana bhava. Fix your mind on me, which means become a tīvra mumukshu. Then madhyaji, sacrifice to me, which means convert everything into worship as Ishvara Arpana. And then Namaskuru Mam, basically surrender to Ishvara. Say Prasada Buddhi. And then Bhagavan says, if you do that, you will come to Atma Swarupa. And Bhagavan cited Ishvara Prapti as the final goal. So thus we complete the chapter 9. Now chapter 10 is Ishvara Vibhuti Yoga. Bhagavan gives Vibhuti. But before that, when we talk about the general definition of Ishvara, what is the general definition of Ishvara? Ishvara is Jagat Karanam. Jagat Karanam means creator of the world, maker of the world. In Sanskrit, we use the expression Karta. Karta means creator. And what is the thing that we notice about creator generally is, in any product that is created, say for example this laptop is created, we notice the product but we do not notice the creator. We don't know where the creator is. So the creator is invisible right now. So the table is visible, the maker is not. He is in a remote place, some other place. And I will have to imagine how he will look like. So the creator is perceived, he is not visible. I do not know who he is. If we apply the same to the creator of the Jagat, then how do we define Ishvara? Ishvara is inferred. Ishvara has to be Anumita. He has to be inferred. He is not in this place because he is, just if we apply the same logic, he is Paroksha. He is somewhere else. And I have to imagine. I have to give a Kalpita Rupam to him. And if we have to imagine the form of Ishvara, what will be our imagination? We generally, the creator of the desk, we consider that to be a human being. So we know this person has to be a sentient being, somebody with knowledge, with understanding, with intelligence. Because animal does not have the intelligence to create even a table or laptop, forget this Jagat. So we have to imagine this person to be a human being. And when we visualize Ishvara, we give a human form. And how do we assess this intelligence or power of this Ishvara? We say, if this creation of this laptop requires some amount of intelligence, then the creator of the Jagat should have much more knowledge, intelligence and power. So we consider Ishvara to be omniscient, all intelligence, and then omnipotent. He is so powerful. Then if the case, and we can only imagine Ishvara as a human form. And what form we give? We give a lot of forms. Vishnu form, Shiva form, Devi form and others. And how many omniscient, omnipotent Ishvaras can be there? There can be only one Ishvara. There can be only one omniscient, one omnipotent person. And the scriptures also say that there is only one Ishvara. Then we have to know what is the correct form of Ishvara. Why do I need to know the correct form of Ishvara? Because scriptures say, if you get Ishvara Darshana, you get liberated. So there are a lot of devotees who have got Ishvara Darshana and they have got liberated, supposedly. So then I have to get Ishvara Darshana to get liberated. Now, what is the form of Ishvara then? Because all of them seem to be imagination. So I am confused about the form. Bhagavan says, you are confused about the form because your understanding of Ishvara is incomplete. Because you understood Ishvara to be the creator, but where is the material in which this world was created? Where does it come from? What is the material cause for this world? For a table, for a wooden table, you have the carpenter as the intelligent cause, the wood as the material cause. For an ornament, you have the goldsmith as the intelligent cause, the gold as the material cause. Then if that case, where does the material from where, how this world was created, where does it come from? So the answer to that is Ishvara must find the material also in himself. Ekameva advitiyam. So he was the only person there. So he has to find he is the intelligent cause and he is the material cause. So which means Ishvara has got two aspects now, the intelligent Chetana aspect, the consciousness aspect, and then the Achetana aspect. Now, once I understand Ishvara to be the material cause, I get a lot of corollaries from there. Number one is, first of all, the material is never away from the product. The wood is never away from the table. The gold is never away from the ornament. In the same way, Karanam, which means Karanam can never be away from Karyam. The cause can never be away from the effect, which means Ishvara is never away from the world. Then material cause need not be inferred. I need not see an ornament to say whether it is gold or not. Or I need not see a table to say whether it is wood or not. I need not infer. I am able to see gold. I am able to see wood. I can see the material cause is very much perceived in product. So which means Ishvara is Pratyaksha. Then, what is the form? What is the form of gold in ornaments? All forms. What is the form of wood in all the wood in the carpentry stable? Everything. So all the form of products are all forms of Ishvara only. So Ishvara is Pratyaksha at all times and in all forms. So Ishvara is not Animita, Ishvara is not Paroksha, Ishvara is not Kalpita. And so when do we have Ishvara Darshanam? All the time. We have Ishvara Darshanam. So this Darshanam is called as Vishwarupa Darshana or Arupa Ishvara Darshana, we can call them. And Bhagavan says, whatever glories you see in this creation, they will all remind you of my glories only. So the next question is, because sometimes when we say, even if somebody comes and says, I am Ishvara, we would expect them to do some miracle, to believe that this person is Ishvara. So do we need to have miracles to appreciate Ishvara Vibhuti now? No. Every event in this creation is a miracle. The way we can open our mouth, talk, the way we can eat, how the food gets digested in the body, how the whole world functions, how the sun shines and gives us nourishment through, how the world revolves around the sun. Everything is a miracle. So everything is a miracle, and instead of looking the world as world now, we should look the world as manifestation of Ishvara. And what is the Upanishadic example that we have to take here? The spider. So just as the spider is the intelligent cause as well as the material cause for the web that it creates, it is the beautiful web, the synchronous web that we see comes out of its intelligence. The material by which it actually creates the web also comes out of itself. And it also takes it back. In the same way, Ishvara manifests himself as this world and resolves this world onto himself. But then the question will come. So if I see the world, have I seen Ishvara? Bhagavan warns us, says, do not take that to be my complete Swarupa. He says, that is only a part of it. My complete Swarupa is Nirguna Swarupa. This is only a part of me. So we have to understand, we just don't stop there with Ishvara Swarupa saying, when I get Ishvara Darshana, I get liberated. That is not Vishwarupa Darshana alone. We have to understand Nirguna Ishvara to get liberated. So wherever there is excellence, wherever there is greatness, wherever there is supremacy, wherever there is prosperity, consider that to be Ishvara. That's why we have Mahalakshmi, Saraswati, all those things. Wherever there is knowledge, we worship. Wherever there is prosperity, we worship. Wherever there is bravery, strength, we worship. So this is all Nirguna Swarupa. With that, I conclude the summary of these 3 chapters. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.